when people move abroad, they think about the freedom to start over, to have a rebirth, to have a clean slate, to write a new story. But here's the truth: many people don't think about the impact that they have on the place that they've moved to. They don't think about how moving to that new place can affect or can potentially change the landscape of that place. They only think about how it affects their lives. Now, I am not exempt from this. Okay. At the start, I wasn't thinking about how I would impact the place I was moving to. I was just thinking about what the place I was going to move to was going to give to me. And I'm glad that I was able to get out of that mindset almost from the start, okay? Because I saw that it wasn't really doing much for me, especially since I'm the kind of person who likes to build community. I'm the kind of person who likes to have deeper conversations. And I feel that if I'm only taking away from other people, then I won't be there wouldn't be quality in that interaction. And the same goes for the new place that I'm moving to, the new place that you're moving to. So the first issue that I'm going to be touching on is the issue of contributing to gentrification even without being aware of it. Gentrification is a process by which an area is transformed and made more upscale and less affordable for local people usually, and more affordable for people who are moving in with larger capital, larger incomes, and things just change and move around. Okay. Now, as an expert, you might think, I'm just a regular person, I'm an immigrant, I'm just a regular person. There's just no way that I would be contributing to making the lives of the local people more difficult. But trust me when I say that knowingly or unknowingly, you are. I am. I know that this one is an uncomfortable truth to hear because we don't see ourselves as that kind of contributor. We don't see ourselves as billionaires or millionaires. And so, hey, how am I affecting the prices here? How am I the one who's raising the prices of real estate, or the prices of food, or the prices of transport? How is that my fault? But we indirectly contribute to it because of our presence here. Our mere presence in this country, in a new country, has the potential to contribute to gentrification. So if you live in a city that has a lot of immigration, whether that be migrants, immigrants, or expats. For me, those two are the same. They're exactly the same. They're human labor that have been diverted. So whatever you choose, anyway. So if you live in a city where there has been a high increase in people moving in, I'm sure that there are things that you will notice happening. I'm going to give you a few examples, okay? I will give you examples of places that I know of, okay? Places that I'm very conversant with. And then if you know others, you can let me know in the comments section below. Maybe your city or somewhere that you visited sometime in the past and then you revisited and you noticed some changes. So let's talk about Spain, especially southern Spain. So places like Barcelona, Valencia, and some of the islands as well in southern Spain. Up to 20, 30 years ago, these areas were up and coming and they were mostly touristic, right? They were more touristic than people actually moving in to live there. And fast forward to today, you find many areas that the Spaniards, I'm not sure how they're called, many areas where they have been more or less pushed out of. Not because they didn't like living with foreigners, but because prices were to the sky. The same thing has happened in Portugal. Now, the immigration process into Portugal is more strict, okay, stricter compared to the past. Or immigration, especially if you are immigrating for taxation purposes or you're immigrating to take up full-time or long-term residence, okay, those are tightening up now because of gentrification, because of inflation of prices. And then let's go to Africa. Take a place like Ghana, for example, Ghana or Nigeria, but mostly Ghana. Many Blacks in the diaspora are moving to Ghana over the past years. And, you know, when we go to these places, especially if we are earning in a foreign currency that is perhaps stronger, we don't realize the gap between where we are moving from and the place that we've moved in. We know there's a gap, but we just don't realize how wide that gap is. So things like the tipping culture, okay? If you come from the United States, you're probably used to tipping quite a lot. That's part of the culture over there. And going to Africa, where, yes, tips are expected, okay, but reasonably. So that if I go there and I'm thinking with my, I don't know, foreign brain, that I should tip $10, I should tip 10%, 20%, okay? Now, that would be in stark contrast to what a local person would tip, which would perhaps be 1% or 2% or nothing. Okay. So, what happens is that the local businesses, they try to cater more to those foreigners because they will be expecting to be paid more. Okay. Service would be different as well. So people serving foreigners would act in one way, and people serving locals would act in a different way. Now, this is not to say that it is completely on the person who's moving it. The burden is not completely on the person who's moving, because I believe that governments also have a role that they play in this situation. I think that better regulations should be put in place. In Malta right now, that's what's happening. I mean, gentrification of certain areas. Almost all of Malta is going through gentrification at the moment. It is under the guise of development and growth, but I see greedy eyes and greedy fingers from the part of the authorities. And I believe that better regulations should be put in place all over the world, everywhere. I think Portugal is doing something now. I'm not sure about Spain. I have to check. I think Spain also has some kind of rule, like if you are selling to a local, like there's a market price for homes, for houses, but if you are selling to a local person, you have to sell at market price. And I think also you cannot say no if it's a local person. So you have a lot of not supply, demand. Okay. So if you have a lot of demand, you have a high demand, you can't say no, especially if they are local. I was talking about Ghana. So lots of Ghanaians are very disenchanted. You know, before it was like, welcome home, you're welcome. Yeah, we want you here. We love to have you here. We want to show you our culture. We want, you want you to be comfortable. But now people are dissatisfied because of how that is impacting the local life. And that brings me to the next idea, the next point, which is importing our lifestyle without thinking about adjusting or adapting to the lifestyle of the place that we're moving to. So when I import my lifestyle, I might think that I am better than the locals because my lifestyle wherever I came from is better, which, by the way, I think if you think your culture and your lifestyle is better, then it's way better for you to stay back at home. Don't move. There's no need for you to move if you think that everything is better at home. Okay? Stay where you are. You're good there. There's nothing for you in the new place. Okay? Because you will meet a different lifestyle. You will meet a different ball game. And it just makes sense to adapt. It makes sense to be respectful. It makes sense to be more accommodating. It makes sense to be prepared for change. It's just common courtesy, okay, to acknowledge what the host cares about, okay, whether you do or not, okay. So importing your lifestyle isn't going to work in this environment, because then you have people who get frustrated because they can't do certain things. For example, people complain in Malta that there is not enough green areas. People complain in Malta that life is too slow, or the traffic is too heavy most of the time. It's not like I don't complain sometimes. Okay, there are things I complain about, but these are things that I feel can be mitigated. So things like the traffic, it drives me nuts because it's a small island and the authorities are not making proper provisions, okay, for the amount of people that they are inviting in. Okay, so of course that's frustrating, but I try to avoid the traffic as much as I can by walking or riding a motorcycle. Okay, I try to avoid, contributing to the traffic. However, things like the nature or how slow things are, I've learned to stop complaining about that. The nature part, actually, I've never complained about it. I love the environment in Malta. I don't mind not having, huge forest all around me. There are some green spaces that I can go to when I need to see green, and there is the beautiful Mediterranean Sea that I can go to when I need to see blue. So I'm okay with that. But besides that, there are things that I just had to adjust to, like the tone of people's voices, things like businesses closing for lunch. That was a huge discomfort for me, but I learned to work my way around these things and to accept it for it is and to appreciate it for what it is. Then there is people living in an expat bubble, okay, in your pretty little bubble that you create for yourself to be happy and fulfilled and go la 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 la, skipping all around and using the place as an aesthetic, for your Instagram and your friends back at home to see how swell your life is. Okay, that is all well and good. Okay, you do you. All right. However, just being in that bubble really irritates the locals. It really does irritate the locals. I know people who have no idea when there are public holidays in Malta. They have lived here for years and they don't know when it's a public holiday. So the usual ones like Christmas and Easter, yeah, that's international, but the local public holidays, and they don't even know why the holiday is happening. Okay, if you ask them, they're just like, "Oh, there's a holiday, and that's good enough for me. I'm off." Okay, they don't know. There are many people who don't know anything about local news, the local grievances, the local pains. They don't follow any local artists. They're not taking up any local causes. They're only thinking, especially people who move from Africa, they're only thinking about how they can take from the society and take it back home. But we forget that there are real people living within the society, real people who are kind of like us back at home. Real people who have hopes and dreams, real people who love their country, real people who have nothing to do with the policies that are being set, real people who, yes, might be prejudiced against you, but really it's just ignorance. Real people who deserve respect no matter what, right? Real people who deserve to have their culture intact, who deserve to have their culture respected, who deserve to want people to speak to them in their own languages. We don't have to begrudge people because they don't speak English back to us or they don't speak English properly. If English is not their language, then it's not their language. We should be the one ashamed of ourselves if we claim that we want to move to a new place and we want to take advantage, okay, of their systems, take advantage of what they have to offer nature wise and for our soul and our happiness, yet something as simple and as connecting as language, we refuse to take part in it. That is just sad. I've berated myself, okay, of how I don't speak Maltese very well. I do know a few phrases to get by, and I'm ashamed of that, and I am working on that. I need to be able to carry on a simple conversation in Maltese. I'm not saying I have to be advanced, but at least to be able to just have a conversation with a stranger and see that smile on their face and how much they probably appreciate the effort that I'm putting in towards trying to come to them on their own terms. Then there is the fact that some people I noticed around me refuse to grow and evolve, grow as a person, grow physically, well, sorry, not physically, grow mentally and psychologically and spiritually. They cling to their old ways so much. They cling to their old traditions and their old cultures. And it saddens me because I feel like if you've left something behind, it's because there was something either wrong with it, there was something not working fine for you. Maybe not everything, but some aspects of it. So, why would I move and bring all of the negativity with me? Why would I move and bring all of the things that I probably didn't like back at home and bring it and import it into this new society? I've met someone who was really bad financially. So financial literacy was next to zero. And they came here with the same mindset. Okay. Obviously, someone like this is setting themselves up for failure. Okay. And unfortunately, for them and maybe for me as well, because I felt that they were a nice person, I had to distance myself away from that person because I wasn't going to let that person lead me astray. Okay, in terms of spending money and being reckless with money in general. Okay, then there are people who refuse to show empathy to the people, to the local people. There are people who are picking and choosing what they would take advantage of. So they only want all the perfect aspects of the new country. They want the culture, they want the Mediterranean lifestyle, they want the sun, they want the breeze, they want the slow life, but they don't want the hassles that are connected to it. They don't want to wait in line. They want to take every possible advantage of every possible loophole that they will find in the system. Okay. And these are the people that I find to be the most unhappy people. When you ask them, they will always tell you, I want to go back home, or I'm not happy here, or I don't like my job, or I don't like the locals, or there is always something negative that they have to say. And that's just really a shame, because if you've left home, I mean, it's because you, like I said in one of my videos, if you're a seeker, especially, it's because you're looking for something transcendent, perhaps. You're looking for something that will make your life, more meaningful. You're looking for a place that will give you peace and joy and happiness. And if you don't let it, then it's not going to happen. So here are some of the solutions that I propose. The first is to be aware of what's happening around you. Be aware of the growing pains of the people, because trust me, they have some. And be aware of the reasons behind them, the true reasons behind them. Sometimes people don't even know how to express themselves and they lash out. And two wrongs cannot make it right. So lashing out back at them is not going to make anything right. Calling them, I know, racist isn't going to mitigate anything. So be aware and give grace. Another thing that I think can be useful is to try to help. Ask what help people need. Ask how you can contribute. Another thing is to show empathy, be understanding, not only trying to be understood. Okay, we want to be understood. I want people to understand where I'm coming from, why I'm the way I am, how you have to treat me. Listen, not everybody has access to all of the resources that you might have had in your life. Not everybody knows everything that's happening in the world. And so you can't expect people to just fall into place for you because you have arrived. Okay. So you have to show some empathy towards other people. And you have to be willing, okay, to either teach people about you or let it go. All right. Be an adult and let it go. Okay. Not everything is about us. Okay. We think me, 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 me. I want my life to be better. That's perfect. That's good. Okay. I want my life to be better as well. And I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to create such a life that I love. Okay. but I can't impose on others to, just understand me and understand where I'm coming from. I have to make that effort and hope that they do the same in return. And then finally, and the big one, is to spend consciously and not frivolously. So just because you can afford something doesn't mean that you have to buy it or you have to get it. Okay, do some research. Okay, see what's happening in the market. Buy local, contribute to local businesses. Okay, support local businesses. Maybe it might be more expensive in that sense. Some things might be more expensive when it's local businesses, but at least you're giving something back to the community. Okay, look at where the local people are eating. Okay, look at where local people are hanging out, and not try to invade those spaces, of course. Okay, we don't want to bring the same issues there, like gentrification and driving up prices. We don't want to bring that there. But maybe, once in a while, you might just go to the very local restaurant that doesn't have all the vibe and, all that jazz and razzmatazz around it, and just go and eat local. This is not to say that you shouldn't move abroad because you might not be ready for all of these things, or because you're not aware of these things. It's not to say that, because moving abroad changed my life in so many ways that I am so grateful for. Okay. But what I'm just trying to say is to move with some awareness and to remember that your actions definitely have an impact on the local community, directly or indirectly. And that also impacts the kind of relationship and connection that you build with the local community of the place that you perhaps have come to love. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a like, okay? And subscribe if you're new here. My name is Isabella, and I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao, ciao.